Greetings, and welcome to When the Moment Chooses You. I am your host, Coach Charlene, and I am extremely excited today to have one of my sisters, Joellen, with us today. So, Joellen, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I am so excited to have you here, and I just always like to kind of give a little bit of context of when I met you. And so I was sitting in for Linda Ackerman, one of my mentors, and I was on this meeting with all of this caring science, just love and just strategic thought partnering. And when she spoke, it was so electric. And immediately my spirit just connected with her spirit. And so I had a chance to actually meet her in person. So, Joelle, and we met in person at the Caritas community in Colorado, and that was amazing. Her same energy, her same anointing is still very present. And I'm so honored that you're going to actually let your light shine in our program today. So, welcome again.
Thanks for the opportunity. I think there's more than two lights in this room, and we're going to light it up today for sure.
Yeah, we're going to light it up. So, I like to start off with a little bit of context of why I started the podcast, just to kind of kick us into gear. And so in 2020, I feel like I was called to begin to share my story, to begin to disrupt systems, self, transform ourselves from the inside out so that we can be better human beings. Basically, there's these moments that call us into them and gives us an opportunity to respond to it or react to it. So I really responded to the moment and felt like it was really my duty at this point to be able to be the voice that needed to release sound to change the different atmosphere. So that's kind of the another way of putting when the moment chooses you. And so, Joella, at first, I'm going to read your bio, and then I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about you. So let me introduce you guys to Joellen, and her name is Joellen Sutterfield, and she's a VP CEM Strategic Partnerships, Healthcare Innovation, Higher Education, and Caritas Coach.
Yay.
Joellen serves as the Vice President of Clinical Education Management at Unitech Learning, a family of 5 distinguished higher education institutions. With 17 college campuses, locations in 6 states within the Western United States. She is an innovative thought leader within the healthcare space and currently oversees academia and practice strategic caring partnerships with hospitals and healthcare organizations, co creating the nurses of today and tomorrow. As a visionary and servant leader and Watson Caring Science Caritas coach, Joellen's mission is to help transform academia and healthcare by reigniting the light of caring, which is the foundation for nursing, one student, one system, one caring moment at a time. She is an impactful, authentic, inspiring leader. She's the co author of an international bestseller, Build It Big, and a Leading with Care Caritas trainer at Unitech. Joellen is a student of life, leadership, and love of humanity, holding diverse leadership roles within the healthcare consortium, community boards for governance, within nonprofits and early childhood education organizations, which align purpose, service, contribution to organizational goals to support the health and well being of our academic and practice health systems and the communities that we all serve. Wow, that's a mouthful. I am so honored to have you here. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
That was a mouthful, and that was over a decade of living. Um, I am a student of life and a learner, and I have come to several of your podcasts, and I feel like, as you stated, it's not only assignment and a calling, but that there are other people out there that need to listen to their own voice, and the only way they're going to hear it is by folks like yourself reaching out and coaching them to be able to hear it. I can tell you that if you're to say, when did the moment call me? Because that is the purpose. Like, what is your calling moment? And it was actually a series of moments, Coach Charlene.
Yeah.
It was like I would find out that most people have these signs on the post road, and you have Siri telling you, it'd be nice if we all heard the loud voice of Siri saying, turn right, turn right.
Yes.
Like you turn right. We don't. It's like this quiet voice that you have to listen to. And chaos and crossroads and COVID are perfect examples that allow people to hear that voice a little clearer. And that was mine. Mine was a crossroad and with a 400-ton truck.
Mm.
Um, I was in an accident I was rear-ended, and it was an opportunity for me where I couldn't sit. I'm better now. It was way back. It was several years ago, and I had to make a decision what I could do. So I found that I couldn't hold a glass of water for very long. I was doing my PT. I couldn't sit, and I was in the tech world.
Mm.
So I took that moment to try to listen to my voice, but I had to write it down. So on one side, I put what I can't do, sit. And the other side was what I can do. I can use my
Mm.
voice like you're using yours.
Yes.
I can train, I can speak, I can try to open doors and pathways for others in service. And if I do that, then I know something will open up for me. And so for business professionals, I was so blessed and part of that bio that you read was I was so blessed to be able to be in an organization that took me all over the world. I was kind of the backup band to people like Masha Weeder, who's been on Oprah a couple of times.
Yeah.
And in this book, I was reached out to because I was helping others. It had nothing to do with me, but out of that contribution of service and my own mission to impact other lives like yours, all of a sudden I was reached out by Dearborn Publishing, would I like to be in this book with Les Brown? And I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
Yes. That's exactly what I said. I would love that. And I even got to be on the phone with him, and he was the mentor for new authors. I actually had to mute it because I was crying. Oh my God, he's a wonderful mentor. And
Oh,
so I think
wow.
love of people, love of learning was that step. But then I really, in my pathway, when I work with visionary leaders like yourself and others, that is what lights my path and lights up the room, just like you said. So the visionary leaders had sold the company. I mean, it took me all over the world. I traveled all over the world, spoke to audiences of 4,000 people, helping them to, utilize their heart and mind connection to take
Mm.
them to the next pathways. And I would end with things like Sid Silverstein's poem, we have this magic carpet that can take us anywhere to health, to wealth, to happiness. You just tell it where. But will you let it take you where you've never been before, or will you buy some drapes to match and leave it on the floor? Right. So I was channeling
Yeah.
them. How? Right. You've done that before, right?
Yes.
Like there is a simple pathway to using your mind and intellect, using your mind and intellect, and this 3-pound universe that we've been gifted with of our brain,
Yes.
connecting it to the seat of your emotions in your heart and using that to go anywhere you want. And so I was achieving my own dreams and then helping others achieve theirs. And then the visionary leaders sold the business, and I thought, where can I take this where I can impact lives? And the answer was higher education.
Mm. Awesome.
Now, how many students have you touched and educated? I know there's many that you've touched and as well as coaching in your own pathways.
Yeah, that is beautiful. So, is that how you winded up being a part of Unitech?
It actually was, although they knocked on my door, and this is like, you still have to grow the ears of your heart, especially if you
Oh, I
yourself.
love that. Wait, wait, wait. That's a mic drop. You still have to grow the ears of your heart.
Yes.
Okay, you got to tell us about that, Joelle. And that's, you can't just drop that and keep moving.
So what happened was I was not listening to the inner voice or the door knocking. Because
Mm.
what will happen sometimes is if you put a thought out there and a heart thought, especially if it's a heart thought, like I would like to move into this, then you'll find that there's a pathway all of a sudden opening. It just is the way that it's meant to be. You'll find that you'll be able to hear and listen. But I was working over 4.5 years as a director of career services, loving my students, changing their lives, new grads, and knowing that I was making a difference in the community. and had a visionary leader there. But I was getting a knock on the door from Unitech Learning for 2 years. Would you like to come over and explore nursing? And it was this moment of chaos that actually had me thinking and propelling me on to answering that call. Everyone knows one amazing teacher. Think about it right now. You can name them, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That they've changed their lives. And everyone knows one, if not several, nurses that have changed their lives.
Yes,
You being one
absolutely.
of them many times.
Absolutely.
So my moment was actually my mother-in-law was after surgery, and she was in her palliative care moments. And this also led me to the calling of being a Caritas coach without knowing it.
Mm.
So I am in there by her bedside. She is moaning occasionally. And this nurse says, Miss Sutterfield, Miss Sutterfield, I'd like to see you in the hall. Of course, I'm like, she's going to tell me something. She's going to, do I need my notebook? I think they asked us for that. Do I need my notebook?
Yeah.
No, I just need you in the hall.
Mm.
And as I'm in the hallway, Charlene, she says to me, Miss Sutterfield, we are managing your mother-in-law's pain, and she is doing okay, but it's absolutely normal for her to make sounds. And what I noticed is that every time she makes a sound, you hold your breath. You try to take it all in, and that's not good for you. So I'd like to take this moment. Oh my gosh, I'm remembering this moment. I would like to take this
Wow.
moment and extend my hands and help you to let that breath out.
Wow.
I know. So she took my hands and we breathed in and we breathed out. And I literally, of course, hugged her. And that moment propelled me into wanting to work with Unitech Learning's nursing college. It wasn't exact because I was waiting for the time to kind of humble myself and say yes, because I have 2 years
Yes.
in college. And then, but the timing was right because important for me is to have a visionary leader. They only had 3 campuses then, Charlene, and they had no marketing, and they hired me to be the director of partnership development that would be working with our partners. So I would go to these hospitals and I would say, this is the face of Unitech Learning coming at you.
Yes.
And then shortly after that, they hired a visionary leader, my provost, Dr. Abdel Yosef, which you have met.
Yes.
And that was the moment. I was already there. I answered the call. I'm at
Right.
Unitech, but then I'm gifted with exactly what I have wanted is a visionary leader. Both the CEO and Dr. Yosef, our CAO and provost, come in. And when he interviewed, the CEO said, he's going to interview his people that will be his direct reports. And when he leaves, Charlene, I say to the CEO, we have to hire this amazing visionary nurse, leader, and provost because I already wear one pair of Nikes and I wear them out, and he's going to wear out 10. You're going to have to buy me another 10. He's going to take us places we've never even imagined because
That's
he
awesome.
cares.
Yeah.
And you've seen the work that he's done from the
Absolutely.
moment 3 to 17 campuses. There's about 5 to 17 campuses. And he, right before COVID, came with this idea that he whispered to the workforce, our CEO, myself, we need to help our nurses. We need to help our systems. This was pre-COVID. There's a nursing shortage. What if we brought the colleges to them? What if we
Mm.
created a system and we created their system, and in their system, the janitor, the CNA, the MA could be able to stay in their organizations, have career paths of their own within their organizations. And we could take the innovation of a campus and put it back to the hospitals and take the heart center of caring science and collaborate them together and create the next Caritas nurse, co-create it with our partners. We've already got 4 schools in the box. I mean,
Wow, that's awesome.
dream come true. So that's
Yeah.
where it all got to me where I am. So our Unitech Learning is growing, but what we're trying to do is create the Caritas nurse of
Mm.
today and tomorrow, the one that's going to change the world one caring moment at a time.
Yes.
Their world and our world. So that's what got me here, my friend. And
I
then I,
know. It's so beautiful. I mean, it's amazing to see. I got an opportunity to come tour the Sacramento campus that you guys just opened, and it was just so beautiful. And it was so, I was so impressed because of the integration and the embracing of carrying science into everything that you guys are doing. So I think that's going to be so transformative for the students. I mean, just starting out. Because
yes,
I think, if, as we saw with COVID-19 and everything else that was happening, nurses were being challenged on every side. So to be able to prepare beforehand for the battle before you go into the war is amazing. So you guys are doing amazing work, and I just really glad that I had an opportunity to see that. So I have some other questions for you because we were talking, and you start talking about the a blue sky thinker. I think that's what I'm. Is that the right terminology for it? You have
yes.
got to tell us what that is. I want them to hear what this is because I know that there are some dreamers out there that need to hear this. So why don't you tell us about that?
So when, as a Caritas coach, I always, I'm heart centered, but I also believe that nothing's impossible. Nelson Mandela said that it just hasn't happened yet. And maybe the timing's not there, like it wasn't for me for Unitech Learning, but it isn't impossible. So I am a blue sky thinker. Me and Julie Watson, and I've been blessed to be on several meetings with Dr. Jean Watson to say, how can we make this happen? How can we get the message out to the world that, caring science and education can need to be combined. They need to be
Yes.
embedded. I mean, like I said, our provost is embedding it in the very curriculum to change
Mm-hmm.
that student nurse by the time they are out, and even during their clinical education, they will be partnering with other nurses. So it's not impossible to do. We actually have embedded the curriculum with the caring science, but nothing's impossible. And that's the thing that everyone needs to know is that you just need to know that in every idea, and I'd taken this acronym from one of the speakers, Masha Reader, that I was her warm up act, like I said, right? So I got to speak,
Yes.
and then this wonderful person that's been on Oprah twice got to speak, and she was wowing the audiences. And one of the things she spoke about was the acronym IDEA. And if it can help you, where we're talking about, the way that your heart, your brain works, this 3-pound universe I talked about, it is wired to what you focus on and ardently desire. It's been built
Yes.
that way. And your voice, your seat of your emotions is your heart. Like, we don't say follow your liver, right? We say,
Yes.
so the heart and mind are interchangeable. We say follow your heart.
Right.
So we have about 6 inches to overcome. Wait, I might have 8, but most people have that much to overcome in the universe
Right.
brain. And this idea acronym really helped me. Like, I could stand for insight. You need to have insight of what you truly want and identify it. And sometimes that's the hardest thing. What do I really want? And that's when I wrote
Yes.
down the list. I couldn't sit. So what can I do and what do I want that I could do standing? And on one side I wrote everything I couldn't do, and on the other, everything. And then D is develop your own purpose. Develop it, because it could be a baby purpose. Mine is often, I feel like we're in the leaders of caring science. Unitech Learning is actually the baby of all of these other organizations that have been doing it for 20 years or 30 years.
Right.
And we want to grow very quickly. And then, so develop your purpose. What is your purpose? To create that Caritas nurse of today and tomorrow that will be able to help our organizations to sustain and to also create well-being for the communities we all serve. And then the E stands for enrolling. Now, I'm very good at enrolling. So enthusiastically enrolling others in your vision. You have to
Yes.
first you have to identify it, and then you have to develop the purpose of why you want it. Because if it's not if it doesn't collaborate and with your heart, your voice is going to tell you, no,
Yes.
no, this is not right.
That's
And the
good.
last is taking action. So the
Yes.
action could be a little bit, but here's an example of this, Miss Charlene. I'll do this exercise, how you take any idea. Your brain is so powerful. And you can even take a thought, and then a thought will create a feeling. The feeling creates behaviors and then action. And you can do this with just a moment and yourself and a lemon. Okay, so let's try it, right?
Yes.
Put your hand out and imagine you are holding a beautiful, ripe yellow lemon. Okay, now I want you to put it closer to your nose. Breathe it in. And now it's cut open and you can feel its tanginess. And I just gave a perfect example of what happened. We thought about the lemon. We felt that lemon's tanginess. And I puckered. I don't know what you did. What did you do?
I don't know. I was definitely watching you.
Yes.
I was imagining. I'm a visualizer, so I was just imagining it happening and using all of my senses to
Yes, and
taste
see you
it.
and your senses were tasting it, hanging it.
Yes.
I even went like this. That was kind of, so what happens is your body reacts, and that is the
Yeah.
same way with any dreamers. So nothing is impossible. It's not impossible for us to even solve this workforce, dilemma that's out there. In fact, that's part of Unitech Learning's mission statement, is that we can assist and maybe even solve the workforce crisis that's out there by creating the nurses of tomorrow and co-creating it with organizations like this School in the Box. So it's not impossible. We can change the world one moment at a time, but you can change your world with a simple idea. Insight, identify, develop your purpose or your plan, enroll others in that vision, and take action. And that action can be small or big. I like to always go to the end of a goal. That's what I
Yeah.
do with everybody, and then put it in bite-sized pieces, because the world is so noisy, and bite-sized pieces are, very doable for most people. So what are some of the things that you do to help people elevate their ideas and,
Well, well, I really love that. I actually love this because it's so simple. And so, what I like about this, Joellen, is that nurses every day get ideas, but we don't do anything with the ideas that we get, right? We say, oh, wow, this is a grand idea. And then you get busy in your own little world and you don't do it. Or you allow your brain to keep you comfortable because you don't want to take risk or anything. So I really like this in particular, but I kind of do the same thing because to me, one of the hardest questions for me to answer is what do you want?
oh,
About my coach about 7 years ago, he just said, hey, I just want to know, what do you want? And I'm telling you, I was like, wow. He said, no, I'm not talking about, oh, a car, a beautiful family, all of this. What does your heart want? What do you want out of life? And so I have been on a quest and a journey to really live out what I want. And it connects back to your heart, because when you're not in alignment with your heart, you definitely feel it. And so my search and my quest is still to be in that place of like complete true fulfillment, which I'm working on. Not quite arrived yet, but I'm definitely getting there and closer. And I'm able to do things like this, like the podcast, amazing. Like when you asked me to speak, that was like amazing because I love doing that. And I learned that I love doing that as I went throughout my journey. You start recognizing these little things that, like, oh, that really made me come alive. That really made me feel like amazing. So it's starting out with just really getting clarity and finding out, what do I really want.
what I love about what you've just said to me is the connection of the heart and mind.
Yeah.
And that is what makes nothing impossible. We've been gifted with this amazing mind and heart. And some people use the word emotional intelligence. Some people even use the word empathy, and it's important. But I would say active empathy is where
Yes.
it needs to happen, because you could tell me all about everything, and I could be trying to put myself in your place to understand your space with caring and sensitivity, but I can't do anything about it,
Yeah.
mostly 80% of the time. So active empathy and emotional intelligence is important, but I would say more heart-centered
Yeah.
leadership, because the heart-centered leadership includes the brain and the heart moving together for purpose.
Yeah, and I think that's huge, Joel, and to be honest, because if you really think about it, like I think of some of the scenarios that I've been involved in that I could have been quite judgmental with, but I had to, as a Caritas nurse and nurse leader, I had to really drop from my head to my heart so that I can make the accurate assessment of the situation and really create space for whatever that situation was that was trying to get me to go back to my normal, that where you don't want to lean into different conversations. So I think I really love how you said that, because I think if we, even in the space of EID and, all of this other stuff, when I drop from my head to my heart, I can get into that humanity space. I can look at you eye to eye, as a sister, not looking at race, not looking at sex, not looking at any of that, and still love you fully right here in this present moment, because I dropped from my head that tends to be judgmental sometimes and not thinking the right thoughts, down to my heart space where my heart is always thinking the right things and feeling the right things and looking for the good in other people, and all of those wonderful things. So I love that. I love what you said there, because I think we need more of that.
And it's hard because the world is noisy and you go from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting. So as Caritas coaches and Caritas sisters, that one moment that I learned in my own journey in the coaching program was, even if it takes just a moment, that intention changed everything. So that nurse that came in and changed my life,
Yeah.
she probably took her Caritas moment before she knocked on the door. She released that moment from her other patient, and my mother-in-law was not the case in room 240. She was the person, the human in room 240 with a family member that was suffering. And because she dropped to her heart, she created that healing environment that changed my life.
Absolutely. And that's the power. That's the power with I think what you're doing, what Dr. Watson doing with all of the Caritas coaches and all of the people that are being engaged, is that one moment, like you might not be with this individual, but I'm gonna be with this individual. And the same thing, I won't be with some of the individuals that you connect with. So the power of a moment to transform a heart and change a life forever is just so powerful. It's so powerful. I mean, every day I remember when I first got on my journey in 2010. I used to, like, before I come to work, I just prayed. I just want to make a difference in someone's life. Somebody will be touched today when Charlene Johnson shows up. And that's my intention that I set. And oh my God, it was just so many beautiful moments that developed just with setting that intention. I mean, from peers to leadership to whoever, I was just ready to be that light that just touched someone's life. So imagine a workforce that intentionally, deliberately going forward saying, this is what I'm going to radiate out. I mean, oh my God, I could just see so much healing coming forth for the staff and for the patients.
And think about that too. Like you just said, a workforce that has the innovation and the caring science
Yes.
from the student onward, and even the
Yes.
people on the units they will touch because they'll be interacting with the other staff nurses with their caring science background that's embedded from Unitech learning. But basically, what you just said, it was like it just exploded in my heart and mind to think of all of the changes that can happen by making these decisions of caring science with innovative nursing school, curriculum and programs, the National Nursing School. I mean,
Yeah.
already some of the things that Dr. Yosef implemented have taken us to 90 and 100% NCLEX this year.
That's amazing. That really is. So I have a question for you, because I always ask my guests, as you told us about your journey, let's talk about barriers. Like, what are the different types of barriers that can probably present itself, especially with you as a blue sky thinker, as a dreamer? Like, what type of barriers did you face? I would love for you to share some of those with the audience.
Well, the first one is most leaders will be just like me and may be having the same answer, is time. I never felt like I have had enough time designated to do the things that I'd like to do, or even giving that caring moment to someone. sometimes we think it takes too long. And I had learned and just got trained because of the Caritas coaching program that can take as little as 10 seconds to answer an email.
Yes.
And to in that moment tell someone how beautiful they are. So when you see something that's beautiful, you need to tell them or someone what it is. And that was my barrier. I didn't think there was enough time. And often, believe it or not, often my voice was stifled because I was afraid. I was in the room of all these amazing people, and now my voice is so loud, so it comes out, it's a perfect example. So that was my barrier, is like I was intimidated by, the Les Browns of the world. As he told me,
Yes.
I put it on mute so he wouldn't hear me crying, that I was blessed to have him as my, mentor. And the same thing happens in a room with amazing nurses sometimes. But now I've found my voice and my own ease. In fact, Dr. Watson anointed me as a nurse of heart. Now, Dr. Watson,
Oh.
don't ever try to take the NCLEX, but he tells people I'm a nurse's heart as well. But that intimidation to think you're not enough.
Yes.
And the moments and the time. But even so, I mean, after finding your voice, Charlene, sometimes I'll talk out loud. My inner voice has sometimes become my outer voice. And thank God I am around leaders, visionary leaders that love me. So when we were going to have a conference, they said, who do you want? And other people said all these wonderful people. And I said, I want Dr. Jean Watson, nurse living legend. I go, but you're going to make me call her. And you're going to make me talk to her and convince her to come to our conference. Okay, I'll do it.
Yes. That's
So I
awesome.
found myself talking out there. I don't know if you do that, but I have that intention, like you said. And I
Yeah.
set the intention, and she has spoken at over six of our events and changed the life of our faculty. And
Yes.
and that is what has helped us win that Lotus Recognition Award, because the curriculum, the faculty training, the students starting, and then the leadership. So, I do a training called Leading with Care, because I
Hmm.
think our leaders need more self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm curious, Joel, and can you tell us, like, for instance, from your perspective, um, if there's a nursing student or even a nurse that are stuck, they're still traumatized from 2020, 2021, 2022, and even some people are still struggling right now. And so I would love to hear any insight that you have that can help them.
So I actually recently took off this hat, but through the 3.5 years, I was the COVID risk management person for
Ah,
17 campuses.
oh, wow.
So I was partnering with all of these nurses, directors. We had lost some of our own faculty, and as the other organizations lost theirs, we would meet with them. I would create space for them to be able to share, because until you can empty out a little bit, you can't move forward. So I
Yeah.
help them to honor their past and envision their future.
Hmm.
And that's the only thing I could do, because you can't move forward unless you can honor what is there, and what you've done and what has happened. And then you can perhaps let it go bit by bit.
Yeah.
And the sutras of forgiveness, part of that is that. But you can't move forward unless you can honor that you tried your best and you did everything in that moment.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful, honestly, because I when I hit my little burnout mode, or whatever I want to call it, it was just all of this unrest and just a lot of frustration and irritation, and your heart is speaking to you. Your heart is trying to say, Charlene, I need you to move in a different direction, but of course, I was trying to stay in my comfort zone,
Yeah.
and so. And so, with all of that, when I finally got quiet, like that's why I love those 7 sutras that Dr. Jane Watson shares. But, when I got quiet, I said, you know what, you have to take some time off, because, people like us, we're constantly
Yes.
pouring in. I'm constantly inspiring. I'm constantly expressing compassion and love and all of that. That's just who I am. But I had to turn it back toward me and start eating some of my own food.
Mhm.
And so that's what really helped me to be able to get quiet enough to see, like, why is your heart um restless? what is going on with that. That's why I really love how you said, you just mentioned something about you want to make sure that your heart has ears or is
Yes.
sensitive enough to hear when it's trying to get you to go in another direction. I think that is like a game changer. If you can cultivate that and make sure that you're really leaning your ear up against your heart, then that's like a game changer. And that's what I did. And that's when I came up with that quote that I found, that you don't die when your heart stops beating, you die when your heartbeats have no meaning. And that
Mhm.
is what I recognize. Oh my God, I've lost the meaning of my heartbeat. So I got to get back into the innovation mode, into the creator mode. And that's what I was missing. I had stopped doing that. And then when I started doing it again, it just like came back. I came back alive where I needed to be. So I love that you're working with nursing students in particular. If there's a nursing student out there that's struggling, because nursing school is tough,
Yes.
what kind of advice would you give them?
So what I would tell them, and not every organization has what we have, Charlene. We have a um, student excellence center where our student support team reaches out to them and offers them help at every level,
Mm,
and faculty support, Caritas coach faculty. I mean,
awesome.
so not every organization has that. So what I would say to student is just you have to speak it. You have to speak it and don't be afraid. Because you're not going to be judged by speaking. In fact, the people that ask for help get it.
Yes.
So, and asking bends the odds. So don't ask, and it's already no. And if you ask for the help that you need, and it could even come in a form like this, Charlene, like, I'm struggling a little bit, and I think I only need some feedback in some of these areas. And if you do that, then you will get the help you need. It's unbelievable. It's just a matter of fact, it'll happen. But you bend the odds by asking, and that's the key tip that I would give, because don't ask, the answer is always no. Ask, and you'll bend the odds and get the help you need.
That's good. And that's practice, Joellen, for using your voice.
Yes.
Again, because you have to say something in order to get the momentum going. So, yeah, I love that. And so it has been like super awesome talking to you. So, I'm going to ask one more question, because I love to, in the times that we're living in today, I love to get like 3 wisdom gems from Joellen. Whatever those 3 things that you can inspire other people with that are listening. I would love to hear your top 3 things to inspire people.
The first thing I would do is go back to that idea. Know whatever idea you have for yourself, for your family, for others, is that you need to identify it, because
Yes.
that's what doesn't happen. Identify it, develop that purpose or plan. And it could even be, I have an idea. I'm going to go to the store. You identify what you need at the store, you develop a plan to get to the store, and you might enroll other people to help you carry the groceries and take action. It's as little as that. So I would say I would start with the idea that we talked about earlier, but then I would take moments. The hardest part for me in the Caritas coaching was to do the meditation. Now,
Mm,
I'm open. I have my morning devotions all the time, right? So I'm
yeah.
always doing that every single day. And at the end of the day, but being quiet and allowing whatever the day is going to bring and setting that intention is very, very hard. And it takes practice. So I would say in an instrument, I play the piano, flute, and saxophone.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I love music. So I would say it takes practice. At first, it's going to be very hard. You're going to sound squeaky like a clarinet,
Yeah.
but you need to practice. And the other last tip is to be open.
Mm,
When things knock, we have a human spam filter, Charlene,
yes.
and it is amazing. It just spam, 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 right? So there are things that are in that spam box that are very, very important, and they are doors knocking. So you have to get yourself adjusted to know, just like the door was knocking at me at Unitech Learning, and I kept thinking, oh, thank you, I'm happy, I'll help you out. Spam, spam, spam. Or you'll open the door to someone, no, thank you, shut the door. And that was my moment. So I would say every person has a spam filter. And sometimes we spam out that inner voice. And
Mm.
sometimes we spam out the opportunities. So those are my 3 tips.
That is pretty powerful. Okay, that was a mic drop right there, Joellen. No, thank you so much for that. It has been such an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show, and you are always welcome to come back, my Caritas sister. But
Yes.
I hope that everyone has been blessed as much as I have been blessed. That's one thing, Joellen, about doing this podcast. I did it because I wanted to inspire other people, and oh my God, I am being so inspired every guest that comes on, just with the wisdom and the love and the strategy and the innovation that everybody comes on with. It is so inspiring for me. And so I understand now why I had to start the podcast a year ago, because people need to be inspired in the days that we're living with.
Yes.
And people need to see all of the change agents that are here. I mean, I've had tons of you guys on trailblazers, change agents, so that you can start dreaming again. You can start getting the idea. You can start saying, hey, it can be me. I can get an idea and bring that idea into fruition. So thank you so much for being here. If people wanted to get in touch with you, how could they do that?
So, Unitech Learning, you can contact Unitech Learning, but also I'm on LinkedIn. So you can reach out to LinkedIn at any time, and you'll see some of the things that we're doing at Unitech Learning and in Caritas Coaching. I do have some wonderful events that we're going to be doing with co-collaboration with Caring Science. And so you'll be able to follow along with us as we're blazing the trail here. But I
Yes.
too, I want to tell you, Charlene, that I've watched your podcasts. The moment we met, I started watching them. And the folks that you have had on, everyone needs to know they can learn from anyone, but you're bringing the moments in. And your path is like already been so enlightening and for so many people, including myself. So thank you for having me here.
Oh, thank you so much. And that's a wrap on today's episode of When the Moment Chooses You. I'm Coach Charlene, and it has been a joy to be your guide through these incredible stories of pioneers and innovators. Each narrative we explored today highlights the power of seizing the moment and making a lasting impact. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to stay updated with the journeys of more extraordinary individuals. Also, give us a follow on our social channels for exclusive content and to be a part of a vibrant community. And if you have a moment, please leave us a comment. Your feedback and your stories inspire us and help our community to grow. So until our next episode, keep finding those moments that define you. This is Coach Charlene reminding you to always lead with purpose. Farewell and keep shining bright.